Unmute yourself, Jim.
Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. Hope you come back often and hope you tell your friends about us. Before we start the show, I want to introduce Father Ron Walters for the show's prayer. Father?
Creator of the world, as modelers and makers, we recognize the intricacy and beauty of our world. We thank you for the vision and artistry you have given us. Continue to bless us with your creative spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father, for all that you contribute to our show. Now, Pat, I'd like to run the sponsor video for Dennis Brennan's Model Railroading.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wanky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with Dennis spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
Well, our next My Build segment on the shows come up November the 20th. And Chris Corse and Greg Cassidy are responsible for the My Build. So I'll turn it over to you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jim. Greg, are you up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to include you there. All right. So hello. Actually, I'm chatting with somebody down your way. I'll talk to you about them a little bit here. But anyway, all right. Tonight we're going to talk about two different My Builds. The first one will be November 20th. It's a free-for-all. So share what you've got. And, it doesn't have to be a masterpiece, but just please share whatever you're working on, whatever you're thinking about, etc. And we'd love to see it. And to participate, email your photos to me at railrunner130@hotmail.com. And please have it to me by November 17th. And the second My Build I wanted to bring up is the December My Build, which is a challenge show. And it talks about interiors because this time of year we're all moving inside from being outside in the summer months, etc. And the more palatable fall and spring. Interiors, insides of buildings, engine houses, caboose interiors, whatever you've got that would fit into that category, we'd love to see it. That show will be December 18th. And to participate, email your photos to me, railrunner130@hotmail.com. And please have those to me by December 15th. And then the show after that, of course, will be a regular My Build in January. And if you have never participated before, please include a photo of yourself. And also, please include a description, including scale of what you're looking at or of what we're looking at in case you have issues getting online or maybe you can't present it yourself. But I'll leave it at that. Greg, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, something I'd like to see is if anyone in our group is working in Z-scale. And the reason I bring that up, for the interiors in January, I'm going to submit a couple kits that I've built over the past couple of years, and I have two matching kits with interiors. One is in HO and one is in N. And I would love to see if anybody has done an interior in Z-scale.
That would be really interesting. All right. Well, thanks, Greg.
I do have a small Z-scale diorama, but no interior. Maybe I'll work on it then.
All righty. Thanks, Greg. And I guess we'll turn it back over to you, Jim.
Well, Greg, I'd love to see your Z-scale diorama. I've never seen Z-scale before.
Well, maybe I can throw it into the one coming up in November.
That'd be great, because I'd really like to see one.
Now, I'll have to put something alongside for comparison, because just seeing it by itself, it just looks like a regular diorama.
Okay, thank you. Well, now I want to talk about our newsletter, and for that, I'll introduce our editor, Martin Breckbiel, MMR. Martin, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Just about done with the November issue. It's a shade over 50 pages still. So it's sizable. It has articles. It has updates from the East Broad Top. It has vendors information, products, all kinds of stuff, and a schedule for the next 2 months. And this is, I believe, the 12th one we've done. We'll be on starting our second year of these with the next month, the November issue, which leads me into a request from somebody or to somebody out there. We're doing 50 pages at a time, and I'm putting this together fairly quickly. But I know mistakes creep in, errors creep in, things aren't quite right now and again. And it would be nice if I could get somebody who would like to assist me on this as a proofreader at some capacity. Just look through it and make sure all the words are in the right order, that the sentences make sense, that I don't have gross duplication or something somewhere else in the issue. Not a big job, not a hard job, but it'll be something. And I've already got Greg Cassidy saying, I'll do it. Sucker. No. Well, because now you've done it in front of witnesses. You can't back out. Okay, so maybe I don't need to ask for another one. Okay, so Greg and I'll work that out. So problem solved. Next, back to you, Jim.
Well, that's fantastic. You're doing a great job, Martin. You really are. And I don't know how many emails you're getting. I get emails periodically with people like the newsletter. But I know that Martin, anybody that puts in the amount of time and effort that Martin does on our newsletter, send him an email. Let him know what you think of it. Is it any good? Was this issue better than the last one or worse? Or what do you think? Is there something that we need to include in it? Is there something you want to take out of it? What's your feeling about the newsletter? It is for you, in effect. What we started it to be, frankly, was a continuation of some of the discussions that we were having live on the Zoom shows. So it can be just about anything that we want it to be, but we want it to be something that you want. Because if you don't want it and like it, why are we doing it? So let Martin know what you think. I know he would appreciate it. It gets, it's part of his salary. I mean, I promised him that,
Salary.
So anyway, let Martin know what you think of his effort, because he really is doing a great job, in my opinion. So Martin, you got some help. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Yep, that was quick and easy.
Yes, sir. Well, now I want to talk about the scholarship, and to do that, we need our chairman, Mr. Bob Davidson, to tell us. Bob, welcome.
I'm looking at Martin's face here.
Oh, no.
Thank you, Jim. That's a good one. Anyway, just some quick updates about the scholarship. I'm very pleased to announce that we are getting close to our goal. We could still use some help in terms of donations. But we're looking, as you know, last year we granted 3 $2,000 scholarships. We're fairly assured that we're going to be doing that again at least doing that again this year, but we'd love to be able to grant a 4th if we can. So please, I know it's getting near the end of the year. Keep in mind that any donations you do make are tax deductible. We are a 501c3 corporation, so you can deduct that as much as your accountant or the IRS will allow. So please, you guys have been so helpful over the past 2 years, but if you can dig down a little bit and help us out here at the end of the year. We will be opening the application process on January 1st, as we did last year. One thing that is changing this year is we'll be closing the application period on June 1st rather than July 1st. That's going to give us some more time for our subcommittee to review the applications and for us to go through the vetting process and hopefully have as outstanding recipients as we had last year, this coming year. So if you go up onto the website and click on the scholarship tab, there is a choice, the third one down, which will tell you to, which will take you to where you can make a donation. And there's 2 ways to do that. You can either do it through the Zeffy platform. There's a direct link there. And keep in mind that Zeffy does not charge us any fees. 100% of what you donate through Zeffy comes to the scholarship. There's also an address there if you prefer to send a check. And that will go to our erstwhile treasurer, Mr. Farrell. And so that all that information is up at newtracksmodeling.com/scholarship. So I do want to thank, as I said, all the individuals who have given. This year we had quite a bit of success in attracting some of our corporate sponsors, and we'd like to acknowledge that. As you know, back in July or August, we were awarded a $1,000 grant from the Amherst Railway Society, and they became our first platinum sponsor. We also this year have been very fortunate to have several companies come on, some renewing, but we have 6 brass level sponsors now. You can see them up on the screen now. Brennan's and the Great Scale Model Train Show, John Gear, and the O-Scale Resource, the Dowdies, are renewing sponsors. And the 3 new ones are the folks at Locofy and American Models and Kershaw Craftsman Kits. So thanks to them. And please support these people because they're supporting the scholarship. You know, last year we were very fortunate to get a gift from the Pacific Coast region of the NMRA, which basically did sponsor one of our scholarships. So these corporations stepping up is making up some of that difference, and we're very appreciative to what they're doing. Another program that we started this year was one of just trying to publicize the scholarship. And we've had several manufacturers agree to put flyers or blurbs about the scholarship into their kits or their products. And you can see their names here. Once again, Dennis Brennan is helping us out, as are the folks at American Models and Locofy. Our own Chris Corse at Conowingo. Thank you, Chris. And Kershaw Craftsman's Kits. So please, if you know of a manufacturer, if you are a manufacturer, it is not contingent on you making a a dollar donation to the scholarship. We would just love to have you help us get the word out about this scholarship program. Our biggest challenge is getting applicants. We've been very successful in our fundraising efforts, but we really need to reach more applicants. There are a lot of kids out there who are going to be entering college or are currently in an undergraduate program or a technical school. We need to reach these people. So please help us out. If you know of a manufacturer, like say you are one, get in touch with me at ntmms@newtracksmodeling.com. Finally, I want to welcome, we've got 2 new members of our committee who I want to welcome on board. One is Doc Lovelace, who you see quite often prowling the streets of Memphis, usually late when he comes on to the show. And Doc's going to be helping us out with getting the banners out to all the shows around the country. And we're really appreciative of that. And also Christian Neerman is joining the committee, and he's going to be helping us with our outreach program to schools and technical schools and high schools, colleges, trying to drum up those applicants for us. We're still looking for someone. If you would be willing to help us out an hour a week or less to come up with ideas of how we can reach out more to NMRA regions and divisions and other railroad clubs, independent railroad clubs. That would be very helpful. And again, it's not just about raising money, if that's a concern. It's about publicity. It's about getting the word out, because as Jim always says, we are the only nonprofit scholarship in the United States. And we want to keep this thing going for many years to come. So I appreciate the help that you've given us and look forward to your continued support. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much, Bob. It's a great job you're doing. Really appreciate all the work that you and your committee are doing. It's just fantastic. Thanks so very much.
Sure thing.
I do want to mention lastly, the last announcement, the Great Scale Model Train Show put on by Scott Gear. His April show now is being moved to May the 3rd and 4th in Timonium. And it's because of the Easter holiday. It took one of the dates away, and the TCA moved their show. So Scott had to move his so that it wasn't in direct competition with Easter or anything else. And the Fairgrounds was kind enough to give him the dates of the 3rd and 4th of May of next year for his show that he normally holds in April. So I want to make sure that everybody's aware of the change in Scott's show. Well, now let's start the show for tonight. And our first guest is David Vaughn. David is the president right now of the O-Scale Central organization. And he just had, they're going to have an election of new officers. So there'll be a new president taking over in 2025. But David is here this evening, and he's going to tell us about what's going on with O-Scale Central. David, welcome.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks to New Tracks for the support that you give to O-Scale, 2Rail, as well as the other groups. I note that O-Scalers are infiltrating your organization. Some of them are out and open, and some of them I think are concealed, but we do O-Scale Central online, and I recognize quite a few faces. So I don't know whether anybody's readying a palace coup or anything, but we have a number of O-Scalers on your show, and I know they appreciate it, as do I. I will put in, I got just a couple of things. I'll put in my usual plug, which is O-Scale Central is involved in a lot of activities, and the easiest way to plug into those activities and see how we promote O-Scale 2Rail and support modelers in the scale is to start with our website, which is pretty easy, oscalecentral.com. And there you'll find a scale-wide product and service guide. You'll find a list of coming O-Scale events. You'll find access to our YouTube channel where the O-Scale Central Online back programs are found. You'll find an introduction. So if you know anybody who is O-Scale curious, you can get a lot of introductory material off of the website. That's oscalecentral.com. I got three things I want to cover tonight. The first is to respond to a question that has been surfaced a couple of times, which is sort of, what does O-Scale Central do directly to promote O-Scale? I'm going to give you a good and recent example of that. Second, I just want to flag something that is the tip of a huge iceberg that is coming this way, that is going to revolutionize model railroading generally, but nowhere is it going to have more impact than on O-Scale, and that is 3D printing. And finally, I will want to introduce the fellow who is most likely to be the new president of O-Scale Central. I'm looking for him. He said he was going to try and be on the program, and if he is, I will introduce him and have him say some things. And if he doesn't make it, I will introduce him anyway. We got good things coming. I have some photos that I would like to share with people, and I assume I can do that directly. This is not my, here we go. All right. We think that railroad prototype modelers are the natural constituency for O-Scale. They've got an enormous thirst for prototype accuracy and detail. They like to do a lot of their own work, and we have been outreaching to as many railroad prototype modeler meets as we can. The photos that I'm showing you are from the St. Louis RPM earlier this year. And we're trying to develop a standard technique and one that will grab as many people as possible. So we put on quite a show at the St. Louis RPM. Let me just highlight a couple of things. First, if you want to get people to stop, put a large screen TV and show train videos. And for us, that was a matter of showing O-Scale 2-rail train videos. It really generated a lot of traffic. When people get close enough, you can talk to them about the scale. You can show them some of the things that we're doing. You can deal with magazine articles and so on. We set this up. Second thing is O-Scale 2-rail trains are impressive. And when you see them moving, that tends to bring people in to watch what's happening. This is an 8 by 16 foot sectional layout in O-Scale. Basically, think of it as being a 4 by 8 HO scale layout on steroids. And we actually were able to bring this, set it up, operate it, and it did attract a lot of attention. Third, part of the St. Louis RPM format is to have what they call learning stations. So we had several clinics going on during the show. We had some marvelous structure building. We had some show and tell on installing DCC and sound. And it attracted a lot of people, including some newbies who were not familiar with O-Scale 2-rail. One of our purposes is to familiarize people with what we think is the hobby's best kept secret. We're also supportive of the O-Scale 2-rail clubs. This one is the Big Bend Model Railroad Club, and we were able to get their participation and quite a few people who are from the club to come and work with us. And this is the team that we put together to operate the layout, to run the clinics, to handle the different outreaches that we were doing. We also used a lot of literature, and we encouraged people, O-scale modelers, to bring O-scale models to display. Historically, RPM meets, as you probably know, have been overwhelmingly HO, and we wanted to try and break that. So we are developing a sort of a best practices, and it's our intent over the course of the next couple of years to do outreach to as many of these RPM meets as we can. The second thing I want to flag is the upcoming revolution that we're going to see in, where is it? Come on. I'm telling you, this whole internet thing is never going to catch on, okay? A couple of years and everybody will get tired of it and it'll just sort of collapse from its own weight. All right, that's my story. 3D printing basically enables you to do models with very high levels of detail that are developed with minimal tooling, basically computer programs, minimum constraints on ordering, and minimum inventory. That's going to help everybody, but it is particularly going to help O-scale because we will benefit from the levels of detail, and we will benefit from not having to deal with expensive tooling and not have to deal with minimum orders and not have to deal with inventory. Now, I'm a nickel plate modeler, and nickel plate was big on Lima, not only during the time it was building steam locomotives, but during the time it marketed diesels. There has never been an O-scale Lima diesel switcher before, although a number of roads had them. And Dylan Lambert of Lambert Locomotive Works has developed one of these using 3D CAD design and 3D printing. This is a mock-up of that switcher, and it is going to be available. It's getting ready to ship now, and it is going to be the kind of project that is going to be able to be produced at will out of the CAD 3D printing area. As I said, 3D printing is going to revolutionize a lot. It already has, and we're just getting started. But the scale that benefits most from all of this is going to be O-scale. So all of the complaints about we don't have the variety that we need and all the dealing with minimum orders and so on is going to go out the window over the course of the next couple of years. So we are really looking forward to that. By the way, this is Lambert Locomotive Works, and you can order them off the internet. The third thing I want to do is to introduce my successor. He's not elected yet, but as many of you know, it's pretty hard to get multiple nominees out of for these small volunteer organizations. And I have been hitting this for quite a while, and I'm ready to step down. And I'm delighted that the fellow who is going to take over is Skylar Shippey. I don't know whether Skylar on the call. He was going to try and make it, and I did not see him when I looked around.
I did not see him.
Okay, I didn't either. Skylar is the president of the Detroit Model Railroad Club. He is presently the vice president of O-scale Central. He is a nickel plate modeler. I like to think I handpicked him, but my official story is it was just serendipity. And he is also the membership director for the Nickel Plate Road Historical and Technical Society. He's a professional engineer, University of Michigan graduate, go blue, and I don't think he has seen his 30th birthday yet, although he is an accomplished modeler. He reflects the board of directors that we are moving to with a lot more younger, technologically savvy, and energetic officers. I know that historically, Two Rail O Scale was the place where grumpy old men went to live out their hobby, and we love grumpy old men. I am one. But we also know that youth and high tech and modern prototype are all things that we need if we're going to have the hobby endure long term. And I'm delighted that Skylar is going to be taking over. That's my report, Jim. If anybody's got any questions and you have time, I'd be happy to answer them. But otherwise, thank you for the time on the program. We are happy to sponsor new tracks, and we are happy to support your scholarship program.
Anybody have any questions for David?
Yeah, David, I have one. There was a question asked on chat. Where do you get the drives? I guess is the Stanton drives are going to be used on that?
You can use it. You can use a Stanton drive. I as an O scaler tend to be skeptical of those little, the little underfloor mechanisms. But there was an earlier mention of All Nation. All Nation is a storied brand in O scale 2 rail, and under the new owner, they have put out a lot of new products and are putting a lot of effort into it. And he has a drive from the original All Nation switcher that is going to be adapted to the Lima switcher. So we think it's going to be a good solid drive. You can use the underfloor power units if you want to. We like to be able to make streetlights dim when we turn the throttle up on O-scale engines. That's hard with one of those little teaspoon power units. So I'm a proponent of the big ones. All Nation makes a very good solid drive.
So where do we go to get that shell? Do you have a site?
Yeah, LambertLocomotiveWorks.com, I believe. And if for some reason that doesn't work and you're interested, follow up with me, go on the O Scale Central website and look for the contact us part, and it'll say president at O Scale Central. Click on it, send me a message, and I will get back to you with the contact information if LambertLocomotiveWorks.com doesn't work.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for David?
Thank you, Jim.
Go ahead.
I said thank you, Jim.
Oh, David, I really do appreciate you taking the time to be here. I think it's important for O Scale Central to talk about what they're doing, the accomplishments they're having. Many in O Scale don't hear that much about O Scale Central, or if they do, they don't talk about it very much, at least in the audience, the groups that I'm involved in. I give you an example. I wrote an article in the last, not current one, but the one before that issue of O Scale Resource Model Railroad magazine. And I got 0 responses from anybody. I mean, it's as if it was a fairly detailed article about what O Scale Central is, what my opinion of them are, and the importance that I think that they're going to play in our hobby, and the need for O-scalers to support the organization. And for good or for bad, I got no response from anybody. Nobody said I agree. Nobody said you're crazy. I got no death threats, nothing. So I don't know if anybody even read it or not. But if you did read it and you do have a comment, I really would appreciate it, because I wrote it to try to get a discussion going about the organization and what O-Scale community wants from this organization, what they feel they're getting now if they're a member, what they feel that it would take for them to become a member, and frankly, what they would like to see that they don't see being done right now or don't hear about being done right now. So, you know, any comments that you have would be greatly appreciated. And David, thanks again for taking the time to be with us tonight and for all of your efforts in the time that David has been president of this organization. He has successfully tripled the membership. And in this day and time, you know, that's quite an accomplishment and something you really ought to be proud of, David. And sorry to see you go as president, but thank you so much for everything that you've done for the hobby.
Hey, I've got a big layout in the basement, and I can't wait to get back down and have some time to do it rather than setting up Zoom calls and putting out newsletters. We are, by the way, we have recently ventured into O-Scale traction, which is a wonderful area of the hobby we had not been in before. And we are just launching an initiative to increase our presence and outreach to the narrow gauge community. We recognize that we have not done a very good job in that regard. So Tom Farrell, I've got your address, and you can expect to be getting some contact very, very soon to see if we can work together on some narrow gauge stuff. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Great.
All right, so moving right along here, the next guest up is Martin Breckbiel MMR for his scratch building corner. Martin, welcome.
Okay.
I didn't mean to wake you up, Martin.
Yeah, you keep catching me when I'm taking a nap. I can't get a napper in this place anymore. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see if we can get this to behave. There we go. Okay. Toolbar right where I don't want it to be. Oh, well. Hey, that got rid of it. Okay, didn't know I could do that. Learn something every day. Okay, so the towerless house. This will conclude this exercise. We've taken 2 weeks off, and here's where we're going with it. I'll bring that toolbar back up. There we go. So the final steps. This will be fairly quick, I think. This is where we left off. It's where we stopped 2 weeks ago, and as I state there, it's kind of naked. It's just the building. You know, buildings don't just exist on blue paper with white backdrops behind them. You know, they need a little bit extra. So I took this down back off the shelf, thinking it's kind of naked looking. I should do something with it. And I went and found some thin plywood, which is not too hard to do. I've got 6 sheets of it out in the garage. A little ungainly running it through the saw, but got enough here to use as a base for under this building. And I had these plaster castings for fences, walls, whatever you want to call them. I have no idea who made them, where they came from. They came to me from the old Indianapolis O-Scale show in a cigar box full of, or a shoebox full of stuff that I picked up for a few pennies. And it's been sitting on the shelf in my shop gathering dust for at least 5-6 years, if not more. And this gave me an opportunity to get rid of something in my shop once again. And they're just laid out here roughly. They're going to go sort of like this, maybe, but maybe differently. But we'll have to see what happens, because they're not going to, of course, come out perfectly the way you want. We'll just cut these to shape or to length with hacksaw, put them back together, some carpenter's glue, and they'll work out fine. And we'll just wrap it around the backside as well. And there's a whole bunch of other miscellaneous stuff here we're going to incorporate into this and figure out how to make this look like a finished structure. So we're going to fast forward a wee bit, or actually quite a bit, not a wee, but quite a lot. And we're going to go right here. So there's where our entranceway is now. We've got these castings all assembled, glued in. There's about 9 different colors of paint on there. You really can't see it on this photo, unfortunately, or any of my other photos for that matter. There's about 9 different colors of paint on there, and they were all painted up and glued into place, cut and reassembled to wrap around this house. We have some walkways, some fencing, gate, all kinds of scenery bits and pieces. We'll talk about that a little bit as I go around the building. So we have a lawn, and actually what I did first here is I actually put down dirt, turf, mixed turf, whatever it's called from Woodland Scenics, all the way around, and then I went back and added the grass on top of the dirt. You know, maybe that's a bit extreme, but I did so nonetheless. But that gave me garden beds around here and enough dirt around the outside. So we have garden beds. These are from JTT products. I have no idea what kind of flowers these are. They're the kind of flowers when I look at them online, I say, oh, those would look good here. That's what kind of flowers these are. These odd round shrubbery pieces. They're from Plastruck, of all people. I picked these all up in a laundry basket full of scenery products at an estate sale about a year ago, and have slowly been using that stuff up. The gates here, this is just Grant Line railings with some styrene pieces for posts. Just glue it all up. There's another gate back here in the back. These walkways are laser cut herringbone pattern bricks. This came from River Leaf Models before they went out of business. Andre Garcia was the gentleman's name, and I asked him if he could make me some sidewalks for my layout for a project there on a building, and I had some leftover pieces. These are MDF that are laser cut, makes beautiful bricks, and you can paint these with about, I don't know, there's 6 or 7 different colors of red and gray in there, and you can see there's a little more gray pronounced in this walkway back here. But again, more shrubbery from Woodland Scenics and other places. I have no idea where the tree comes from. It came out of a box of miscellaneous rubbish, leftover stuff, and it said, plant me here because I'll fit. And that was the major criteria for that tree going there. We go around this side, you can see a small gate around the back, some more herringbone walkway, some more of this stonework. Added this little bench on the front porch here. This laser cut kit part that came from somebody company whose name it's been so long, it's been sitting in a box waiting for a porch to sit on. It finally found its porch. The lesson here, of course, being don't throw stuff away. Put it in a box. You'll use it someday. You have to make sure someday arrives before it's too late, though. And around back, more of the same. You can see the colors are a little bit different on this. They're showing up a little better on this photo. Some more laser cut bench and another chair. And some more shrubbery. There's a good Monty Python joke in there, but I'm not going to use it. And more garden stuff around this side. So these are actually a little wire sprue that comes out, and I actually drilled holes through the dirt into the plywood and planted the plants with a little bit of glue on each stalk. So they're not coming back out. They're not going to fall over. They're not going to disappear very easily. Unless, of course, you have a visitation from a small rodent. And last but not least, the weather vane up top. This came from Chris Corse from Conowingo Models. This is a 3D printed item. And he made this based upon a photo I sent to him of the actual real weather vane, which is on my back deck of the house from which I'm speaking right now, which used to be up on my house on a cupola in Pennsylvania. And I salvaged it, and it was in storage. The real one was in storage for a long time. And then I thought, I should take that down and make it look presentable, which means every 3 years I have to take it down and repaint it. But it actually functions and does occasionally tell me which way the wind's blowing. And that's the pretty much the end of this. Oh, you can see also, since I added some more copper and acetic acid to the copper salts and acetic acid to the front roof, copper roof over the bay window. So that sort of cleans that up, or matches it up with all the rest, or dirties it up, depending on how you look at it. And I think that might be the end. And it is the end. And there's no next time. That's left over from a slide that should have been edited. Oh, well. That's the way it goes. And next month we'll start something new or something old, depending on what it is. Any questions?
Yes, Martin.
Yes, sir.
Out here. You didn't put any curtains or anything on the windows at all, eh?
No, it was too late by the time I did that.
Okay.
Probably should have done that. There's a lot of things I could have done, could have, should have, didn't. It happens.
I know.
You know,
It's good looking structure, Martin.
it's a big building. You just stick it all the way in the back corner where you don't have something else to put.
Great job.
Fills the hole. There you go.
Anybody else have any questions for Martin? Martin, thank you so much. See you next time.
Yep.
Well, now I want to turn to Steve Montgomery. You may remember Steve showed us some Ambroid kits that he built, talked about painting them, how he painted them, and so forth. And I got an email from Tom Boyd who had some questions. So I sent the email to Steve and said, Steve, how about coming back on the show and maybe dealing with some of the questions that Tom raised? And Steve was kind enough to do that. And so welcome, Steve. I really do appreciate it.
Good evening.
And really, let me just read this email to everybody so that you get a feel. Tom, are you here? I know that I sent you an email and the link and everything and encouraged you to be here. I don't think I saw your name, but I could have missed it.
I don't see him.
So here is the email. Jim, saw part of the video on the Ambroid kits by Stephen Montgomery. When you connect up with him again and have him explain how he painted some of the cars prior to assembly, painting all the parts before assembly, masking and spraying after assembly, multicolored cars. I think that would be helpful information to pass along to all of us that watch. Take care, Tom Boyd. So that's kind of questions that he had, Steve, for you about the past segment. And I think what he's trying to do is get you maybe to go into a little bit more detail about painting some of these things before assembly and so forth, and why that's important to you and how that works out for you.
Okay. There's no magic involved, really. Depending on the car that I'm building, let's take, for example, the vinegar car that I showed you all. Mm-hmm. That was the tanks themselves were pre-printed and painted kind of aluminum color by Ambroid. So I just matched that paint the best I could with an aluminum paint that I found at the store. I believe it did all the framework. I just painted it black. I sprayed it with I use rattle cans, nothing fancy. I do have a spray booth out in my barn, which I paint in. I don't use a airbrush. I've got one. I've got all the equipment. I've never learned, believe it or not. So everything I do is either spray cans or from the bottles. And my paint ranges from regular model railroad paint to what I get like it. Oh, it's what is it, like the hobby paint that, or the craft paint that you can get like at the I go with my wife to the fabric store, and when I go I always look through their containers to see if I see any colors that'll work. And this one here, the tanks were pre-painted and printed by Ambroid again, the Von Allen Pickle Company up on top, so I had to try to match that paint. And what I came up with was it's a primer, kind of a reddish primer that I use. And I noticed that it matches the box cars quite a bit. Well, the name escapes me right now. I'm sorry. I wasn't prepared a lot for this, and I should have had everything here. But it'll come to me. But I found that with this one here, I basically spray painted everything except where the printing was. The bottom, of course, is all black, which I'm pretty sure I hand brushed that. And the ladders, all the hardware up on top, I very carefully painted all that black before I glued it together. And depending on the car, if it's just a regular box car like those the big 86-foot hogshead cars, I built them completely except for the couplers and the trucks, and then I just rattle canned them. It's an oxide red primer is what I use a lot of. And then these were, when I assembled these, of course, the doors and the posts on each side, they were painted separately with a silver paint. The rest of the car was all sprayed. And I believe the underneath of that is all the same color on that one too. Yeah, auto red primer. They're, yeah, auto red primer will work. That's it right there. They were all built, and then I sprayed them, and then I added the light, or the plastic disc up on top that simulated the skylights, and then decaled. And I always gloss coat everything, can of gloss coat, put my decals on, and then I'll go and dull coat everything. But it kind of, again, it depends on the car as to the detail work. If it's a lot of components, yeah, I'll pre-paint them first, and then I assemble everything. And
Anybody have any questions for Steve on his painting methods?
let's see, I'll just.
Well, Steve, I can't thank you enough for coming back and trying to elaborate a little bit about this. I think you've answered Tom's questions, and I certainly do appreciate your time this evening. Thank you so very much.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, and talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Well, now I want to turn to G-scale modeling, and that's Steve Bittinger. So, Steve, welcome.
Good evening.
I hope I postponed you far enough into the show to make it comfortable for you.
Yeah, I actually got back here amazingly on time, but that was okay. That worked out fine. So anyway, well, I've been absent from the show for a bit. I missed y'all last month due to a little conflict in schedule. So I'll kind of do a recap of what we had going on. One of the things we were doing, if y'all recall, was we had a box car that I was going to take outside and leave, set out on the railroad for some natural weathering. So it's effectively been out there now 8 weeks. When it first went out, we had a spell of rain here. We had a lot of rain, consecutive rains. In the month of October, we've had 0 rain, not one drop. But the rail car is here. Steve Sherrill's behind the camera here again tonight. So I must say one of the suggestions that was made was to take steel wool, and that turned out to be a great success. Put that up on top of it. And we're using the old iron cut nails to rust it up, and they hold the steel wool down. So that worked as well. The car has started to fade a bit, and we're getting some nice rust effects down the face of it. The only unanticipated issue I had was in about a 1 week period, all the steel wool disappeared. And I was just left with the nails. So one day I looked out the window in the morning and I saw what the problem was. For some reason, crows are taking the steel wool. Don't ask me what they do with it, but they clean me out of steel wool. So I got a fresh batch on here tonight, and the car is going to go back out again tomorrow. And we're anticipating rain for the first time tomorrow. So we should start to get some more good rust. And we're getting heavy dew at nighttime, and that seems to work just as well. So car's going back out, and we'll report in about another 4 weeks and show you how that's going. So that's the update on that one. Next item for this evening. Those of you on other scales, you're fairly fortunate when it comes to couplers. I've got some samples here of a couple of different kind of knuckle couplers, and I made a little quickie list of all the ones when you buy cars that you get. So we have LGB, Delton, Kalamazoo, Aristocraft, USA Trains, Lionel, KD, AccuCraft, and Bachmann. So when you get a car from them, you get their proprietary knuckle. Some of them fit together when you operate, some of them don't. So we just had an operating session this past Saturday, the last one of the year. I use all KDs like these right here on my rail cars because for operations, they're the only practical one to use. The question always becomes, how do we couple and uncouple knuckle couplers in G scale? The coupling aspect is not hard with KD. It's just like all your other scales. They push each other open and close. The next question is, how do you uncouple them? The answer there is every time you go to a Chinese or Thai restaurant, you come home with the chopsticks. I found out there's multiple choices out there in the world on chopsticks. This one is a real typical one. You get these in little twin pairs in paper. They work great. You just reshape this tip a little narrower down here at the end. So in the case of KDs, you're going to put them right in between the two knuckles. And then you just turn them counterclockwise and it'll open your knuckles up for you. Real handy dandy. Second item I've done with these. Here's the same one. And it has had this hook device added to the other end of it. On this one, this we use when you're operating. If you get any gravel or anything like that in the frogs, along the switches, at the points, you just take that little hook, put her down in there and clean it out. Because during an operating session, everybody has one of these, they're carrying it with them. They're going to use it to uncouple their knuckles. They're going to use it to clean out any switches that they incur along the way. On other brands, this one here, for example, they use a different opening and closing system. Tiny pin on top, big one on the bottom. When it's locked shut, you're going to use this and you're going to lay it on top of the rail. I'll do it like that. And you're just going to push up. You're just going to, that action right there is going to work for you if you're using something like this. But one of the toughest ones to open is this one right here. This is Aristocrat. They have this very large protrusion, I'll call it, here on the bottom, and it has a really tough spring. To get it to open on top of the rail for G-scale, you're going to have to push hard on that thing. Likewise, when you're coupling the cars, you almost have to slam them together, get them to work. But the little tool will work all the way around. One more thing that we give operators is a piece of this right here. This is just a piece of PVC trim. And what I've done is cut them to this size out of there, first piece. Then make this shape right here with the point on the end, tapered this way as well. Anytime that you want to push cars on the track and not have them couple, these drop right into the coupler like that. If they engage another car, if you're pushing into a siding or whatever reason you want to be, this will not couple. You push it in, leave the car. When you come back, you take that back out, you're all set to go. Saves a lot of running back and forth or coupling and uncoupling all the time. I know sometimes we do what we call offsetting, where we'll just take and open them up, push one over to the side like that. The problem is if the car rolls away from you and back together, they just recouple all on their own. So this little guy here, when it's inside there, it's going to do the trick for you. It's going to be all right. So that's one little topic for tonight for G-scale folks. And in the world, if they never had standardized knuckle couplers in G-scale, it would have made it a whole lot simpler. Next little project for this evening is I'm going to go back and kind of refresh everybody. I'd had a lady contacted me about doing an outdoor layout down in Frankfort, Kentucky area. And so I had started up with a design that I thought would work readily for them. And I had shown that to you all once before. So since we've had a little brief time, I'll do a catch up for those that didn't see that. But this is the outline of the potential future layout. This is a raised bed garden railroad, 32 inches up off the ground. And we're looking at a distance left to right here of 29 feet. And down this side, 25 feet, 12 feet across our bottom, 12 feet returning, and a 19-foot stretch right there. So I had priced out all the different cost items that we could use. And going back on that, it turned out the most cost effective was to get secondhand railroad ties. And I figured out that I had to leave to tell folks that based on the region that they live, you can go on Marketplace. Railroad ties, B-grade railroad ties, which are pretty good, were available quite close to them. And we have a supplier here as well, selling them for $15 each. To build the layout that we need here, we needed 52 ties. They were able to purchase in their area 52 ties for $750. However, there was an issue of delivery, and they paid $125 for loading at the location, bringing them over and unloading at their property, which is really not too bad. So at this point, the entire perimeter can be built from those ties, and we have $875 investment for our perimeter. One of the other items that you're going to need when you do this is some way to keep the ties tied together when you stack them. So I just happen to have here a handy dandy see-through layout. And I have gone ahead and there's our ties. I set it right down on top. Steve, I don't know. I guess Steve has it on camera. So you can see what we've done. We've stacked the ties up, alternated the joints. That's the strongest method. This side here only has a single run of ties going around. That's on purpose. You're going to have to get the first 8 inches of drainage stone in the bottom, the old broken bricks and blocks that I had mentioned once before. And on top of that, we're going to have some type of material, fill, hopefully anything inexpensive to get us raised up till we reach almost the top of this. By this being open, this is a place for anything, wheelbarrows, a bobcat, a tractor with a front end loader, in and out of here, placing the material. So you're not trying to work over the top all the time. It's a whole lot easier than running around trying to dump it in from these sides, because here I can come in and I can compact it as it goes in. Here, when I dump it in, it's very loose. And I'll tell you from past experience, you're either going to get a tamper and you're going to tamp it down, or you're going to wait a long time for nature to settle it down for you. So just leave this side open. This stack here will be finished after you've got 90% of your material inside. Now we can dump over the sides and bring this thing up to grade. Next thing we're going to need is some way to tie these together. So before we got on here tonight, I was showing Steve Sherrill, brand new product. Most of you are familiar with rebar. Here is a new kind of rebar called pink rebar. This is not metal. This is fiberglass. This is fiberglass rebar. The nice thing about it, it does not rust. We've been using this on jobs just recently. Works great. It's much easier to cut than rebar. We cut it off with just a angle grinder. And driving it, it drives just like steel. The nice thing about this is it's 1/3 the price of steel. This 4-foot piece of rebar here is $1.89. If I bought that steel, I'd be paying about $6.50 for it. And this is available in 3/16, ½ inch, anywhere from 4 foot to 10 foot lengths. So this is what we're going to be cutting here. Length's about this long, drilling a hole down on top of our railroad ties as we stack them, because you want to tie every other row together. Stack one on, drill through with your drill, drive one of these in. After you run that row, alternate, drive another row. And you're going to put these in through the ties about every 3 to 4 feet apart. That's what you're going to need. And in the corners. Corner locations are really vital to tying this thing together for strength. And I had a hammer when I was tapping on this stuff. You can listen. Sounds just like steel. So we're going to save a lot of money. I had factored in to our original cost that we're going to buy rebar, and our cost on the metal rebar was going to be $108 for all that we needed. Now I'm going to bring it down. It's going to cost us $40, down from $108. Very nice savings on that particular item. Next thing we're going to need is a liner on the inside here for moisture, and so our soil and stuff doesn't leak out through the cracks. I priced these up today. I'll get that on camera. I hope you can see it. But most of you are familiar with Husky trash bags. They're $29.95. You get 50 of them. Those are what you're going to use for the liner on the inside. Instead of buying a big roll of polypropylene for some ridiculous price, one box of those, 50 of them, it's going to take you about 30. So you're just going to take those out of the thing. They're double thickness. You're not going to open them up. And you're going to hang your trash bags right down over the side. Take a nail, cap nail, roofing nail, whatever, tack the top of them. So you put them over, lap them over each other about 6 inches. And each one of those is going to go about 3 feet. So 3, 4, 6, 12, etc. We go around the corner. When we've gone around, we'll put our liner that we need on the inside of here for the purposes of moisture. After that, we're going to be ready for the next phase when we get to the point where we're going to put stone, brick, block, big gravels, whatever it is in the bottom. But we need to have the plastic liner go in there first. So at that point, we will have built, minus the dirt or fill, we have that up to where we are ready to talk about what's going to be the track plan, what's going to be the scenic aspects of our G-scale layout. And that, I think I'll cover in a different program. So if I go back to our costs, we have spent $750 on our railroad ties, $125 to have those delivered, and $30 for our plastic trash bags, and $40 for our pink bar, our rebar that goes in there. That's going to have us to the point where, at that point, we have spent just shy of $1,000 for our complete layout. And I've told you once before, if you want to get cheap dirt free, you call up swimming pool companies, you ask them if they're digging pools anywhere in your area, you'll gladly help them dispose of the fill material that's coming out, because that's an excellent way to get material generally close to your home. You're not paying trucking expenses, and the material comes out, it's just fine. You don't need any kind of super duper topsoil or things of that nature for what we're doing at this point, because we're not talking about the vegetation aspect that's going to go on top of here eventually. So I'll be glad to take questions on that. I'm trying to be brief tonight, and Steve Sherrill wants to hop out of here so he can go home. His presentation.
Steve, when do you put the drain holes in the ties? At what
On
point?
the sidewalls?
Yeah.
You don't put anything.
You don't put any?
No. Any sidewall drainage. We're taking all our drainage down into that 8-inch layer on the bottom, and that's where we're letting the water come out under that first, I guess you say at the first 8, that would be correct, Steve, at 8 inches. Within that first 8 inches, we're going to have weep holes down there at the very bottom. We want that plastic to come down and stop maybe 3 to 4 inches from the bottom, so that that area down there is where all our water is directed. Water's not too much of a problem in building these layouts. I've had maybe 6 or 7 layouts I've built for people in our off times. The worst thing that can happen is you get certain clays in certain areas that are non-permeable. And it's just like putting a pottery jar down there. When that clay dries out, it just holds water, period. So you have to be careful, maybe with that exception of what type of soils you're putting inside. But if you just if you throw it in randomly, the clay is just a small component of the fill that you're putting in.
Hey, Steve, it's Greg.
Yeah, Greg.
The corner that you keep low in order to bring the bobcat in or whatever you need to.
Yeah.
You leave that low for some type of canyon that you could put a trestle over or something, or would that be too dangerous?
I was trying to keep this relatively simple. Greg's familiar with my own railroad, and my exterior perimeter goes up and down, which you would call the fascia. I have multiple heights. It varies by 18 inches over the entire layout. So what you're saying, Greg, would be correct. You would hold it down if you wanted to do raised where the trestle would be exposed and so forth above the grade. That's exactly how you would do it, by leaving that corner low.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you might end up with too much natural erosion or something.
I don't have problems with that, really.
Okay.
I have some pretty good slopes on my railroad, and yes, a massive downpour or something at that point, you're going to have to do some repairs, but not as a rule. You know, it's not too much of an issue.
Cool.
I mean, it's real rail. This is as close to real railroading as you can get
Yeah.
when you go outdoors. So.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, thank you so very much. Great presentation. Look forward to next time when we'll start seeing some fill in there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We got to go out and start gathering up again.
Thanks again. And tell Steve he can head home now.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Goodbye.
Well, now I'm going to turn to Tom Farrell. And Tom has something special for tonight, I think. Tom's going to talk about Al Judy's layout. So Tom, I'll take it over to you, sir.
Thank you for having me this evening. And yes, tonight we're going to have something special. Tonight we're going to feature Al Judy. We talk about him a lot. If you're not a narrow gauge modeler or specifically an ON30 modeler, you might not know exactly who he is, other than we held him in continue to hold him in great reverence. He died here recently, unexpectedly. You know, without getting too prolific, perhaps one of the only certainties in life is our eventual passing. And when a model railroader of his stature dies, I mean, their life's work is complete. And for those of us that know him, it's time to start building and continuing his legacy within the hobby. I recently featured a lot of his work on the ON30 railroading page. And tonight I'll share photos that Al took, tell you a little about Al, and then some photos I took of his layout. So I hope you enjoy this. As we say, he died August 3rd, and he was really a very good friend of a lot of us. And I couldn't even give this presentation in August or September. I just would be beside myself. He was a real icon in the community, and he was a gifted artist, an exceptional modeler, fantastic photographer, and a real advocate for the hobby. He was our leader for ON30, and you know, Ben Poole captured this very well here. He was a world-class modeler, particularly good with locomotives, structures. The biggest thing he did was he gave back to the hobby all the time. One of the things that came to light after his passing was the enormous amount of texts that he would handle throughout the world. How many people called him a friend, how many people asked him for advice, and everybody said the same thing. Oh, I texted Al the other day, and he texted me right back. This is not 20, not 30, this is in the hundreds. Al was a force of nature in our hobby. He had over 20,000 followers in Facebook. You know, I get excited when I get 200, 250 views on one of my presentations in 20,000. I mean, think about that. And he also, in his lifetime, he ran a hobby shop. He originally started out in HO. And when he saw the Bachman come out with the ON30, he was hooked and he never looked back, like many of us. And he was a real mentor. I called him up now and again when I had questions. He always took my calls, and again, he took them from hundreds of people. I don't know how he did it. I consider him, and I told him this when he was alive, that he was the John Allen of ON30 because he gives back to the hobby. And on my structure that I featured here on New Tracks Modeling, and it won 3 awards as best structure in various shows. I featured Al Judy as one of the portraits next to John Allen. This was before his passing. So this was not post his passing. This is how I felt about him before he left our model railroading world. One of the biggest things he did were these shows. Not just narrow gauge, but O scale. This was this year in April. I went to both of these shows. O scale 2 rail, traction, Proto 48, ON30. He hit all these scales. He reached out to all these people, and he had associated Facebook pages for all of these scales. This you may or may not know. And then, of course, the big show that was the June show. What was so, I don't know what the word is, so odd was in June, he was running around in his element at this show, king of the world, laughing, and 2 months later, he's gone. I mean, it was just unbelievable. These shows were different. I've attended National Model Railroad shows. I've attended the Great Train shows, basically all of my teen and adult life. It's difficult to say how unique these shows are unless you attend one, but it's more like a family reunion. That's the only way to say it. And I've made lifelong friends at these shows. Literally like a family gathering. This man was in his element at this. He was just smile for 2 days continuously, thoroughly enjoying the event that he organized and built. We had a discussion this past June. He said he was going to call it the International Narrow Gauge Meet, because we had people from, I think he said 7 different countries. We had them as far away as France, Australia, Germany. It was vastly becoming a globally attended conference. It's very casual. You know, other shows, it's tough. Again, it's tough to convey, you know, everybody just is in a relaxed state. You're talking to the vendors. There were a lot of vendors there, a lot of manufacturers, major vendors. This is one of the neat things about the both shows is they have a on-site Friday evening picnic. This is not a photograph of everybody that's there, just a section. But you know, everybody floats around, and you can see several New Tracks members in here. Those that attended will attest just how much fun these shows were. Then for a select 2 or 3 of us after the show, we go over Al's house and have a few adult beverages and carry on a little bit, prepare ourselves for the next day. It was just a lot of fun. And that photograph pretty much sums up Al. The guy enjoyed life and enjoyed the hobby immensely. There's a group of guys called the Red Shirts. For years, I was an unofficial member of the Red Shirts, but now I guess I'm an official member. The Red Shirts helped pull off the shows, helped the vendors set up, helped with everything. And the Red Shirts will ensure that these shows go on. And Al had a ON30 Railroading Facebook page with nearly 8,000 members. Al turned that over to me as the administrator. So I run this Facebook page, and I have help with Ben Poole as a moderator and our very own Jeff Jordan as a moderator. We're trying to preserve the legacy and the convey and keep moving the ON30 world forward. A lot of innovation happens in ON30. These are the two shows for next year. The flyers are made up. We moved the all O scale meet was moved to later in the year. This was Al's plan, but the big show that for the narrow gauge is going to be June 13th and 14th of next year in Harrisburg. And then in the fall, early fall, late summer, is the all O scale meet. So we're going to keep his Facebook page going, keep these shows going, and preserve this legacy. Now, if you've ever seen most people's workshops, including mine, they get a little messy. He's the Felix Unger of workshops. His workshop was immaculate. Every time he did a project, he'd clean it up. I think he did this, well, that's just how he is, but he had so many visitors throughout the year. I think it was just became a very good habit to keep it well organized and clean as a pin. Then he had his layout in the next room, the ON30 Mill Creek and Lycoming. This is a museum quality layout. It features scratch builds and kits and other master model railroaders' structures you would incorporate into his scenes. The next part of this presentation is going to be photographs from Al, and then photographs that I took while visiting Al's layout. CPF photography, there's only a couple of us that do this on the ON30 railroading page, Al and myself, basically. He was a master at this. It's I mean, honest to God, doesn't that look like it's something from the 1920s? I mean, it's just amazing modeling, museum quality. It's like you're there. No detail, you know. We'll get to the color ones in a moment, but extremely realistic. Look at the siding on that building, the rust running down here. I mean, interesting thing about Al Judy's layouts, he didn't glue anything down. It's one thing that a couple of us, one thing I never agreed with him on, but all his ballast is loose. All his track is loose. Nothing, he could change a scene. He could change a scene in an afternoon. He got away with it. And he built several layouts for people that the ballast, for example, and some of the structures weren't glued down. I sort of disagreed with him on that, but hey, his layout, his rules. He was particularly good at dressing out a locomotive. There was a little, he would put chains on these locomotives, and sometimes the chains would it would be a little heavy, and it was a running source of humor for us. What we call ourselves the black sheep of model railroading. So we greatly admired his work, but in fun, we'd point out that maybe those chains were a little heavy. These particular ones aren't. But that was just a little running joke amongst the small community of ON30 railroaders. Now we switch to color, and another thing he did is he mixed his own ballast. I have the magic elixir somewhere. I asked him those are commercial products and they're mixed. It looks quite realistic. For years he used, with ON30, we can use HO scale track. We have the same gauge. For years he just used regular HO scale track, but on his most recent rebuild of his layout, he began putting in Pico ON30 track. It's not that it's necessarily more scale, the tie spacing is more correct, but it's a very robust product, ON30, Pico ON30 track. Pico products in general. Micro engineering looks better, but Pico's more robust. That one's a little out of focus, but he wasn't afraid to paint locomotives, some of these odd colors. I recently featured an article in ON30, our ON30 Railroading Facebook page on that very subject. This is a sawmill that he built with interior detail. This was the masthead that I put in the ON30 railroading page for months. I popped his figure in here on the right just for fun. Look at the detail on that, complete with lights, sawdust, equipment, wire. I mean, it's like you could step in there and start working. Another breathtaking shot of his railroad. There's one that has the chains are a little bit too heavy. So that would be one for fair game on our inside joke, but not trying to point out flaws. I mean, this is just magnificent modeling. So the rocks and it captures a feel. If you have not seen his modeling, his New Tracks modeling lifestyle video, look it up on YouTube. It is the most watched video of the series. I think Jim must have did roughly 20 of them. And the modeling lifestyle of Al Judy has the highest view count. Check it out. Another great shot of a locomotive. Chains look good there. See these little details, burlap, and the retaining wall here. The rails are rusted. He left no detail untouched here. One of my favorite photographs. Look at those refrigerator cars. Al and I used to talk about composition. Composition of photographs. It's no accident that these photographs look as they do. If you're an artist, and Al was an artist, you compose these photographs. They're not snapshots. They don't look this way by accident. My photographs don't look my way by accident. They're composed. One of the things Al and I would talk about was composition all the time. Not a lot of people pay attention to composition when they put together a photograph, but Al certainly did. He was very good modeler in all respects. Whether he said he enjoyed scenery best of all. He built a lot of unique structures. Very unique structures, like a burned out engine house, for example.
But I personally think he was just the finest modeler of these narrow gauge locomotives, weathering them, adding details, putting the highlights on. I mean, this is extremely magnified, and I mean, you just can't do any better than that. It's amazing. It's a scratch build engine house of his. I took these photographs after one of his shows. Like I say, before we would enjoy the libations that he would provide, we would go into the train room, and he'd let me loose on photographing. I have a whole bunch of photographs of his layout. It's like you could walk around here, you know. This is a kit. What's not in the kit is to open things like the windows, how you paint and weather things, how you handle the mortar on the bricks, how you do the scratching of the wood on the water tower, how you place these figures like they're having a conversation. This guy's working. He really knew how to dress up a scene where you could immerse yourself into the world of Al Judy. Another particularly nice composition here. I feel like you could walk down those tracks, you know. A series of scratch buildings, a kit, all the cars, everything has a uniform look and feel to it, a weathering, an ambiance about it. This was the world of Al Judy, master model railroader. It's another kit, but not in the kit is all this stuff. Everything around it, and the boarding of the windows and the kit bashing. It's an unusual model. These were steam shovels. They, just a quick history, these were turn of the century steam shovels. It required two operators doing this from memory. One ran the steam engine inside, one ran the crane. They were replaced roughly in the 1930s by diesels. Al got this from somebody that just couldn't put together the rigging here, gave him the kit in a semi-completed condition. Al finished her off and weathered it. See the little blocking under here? That's a little detail. You know, a lot of guys who just have that bucket on the ground. You know, coming from the mining industry, you don't leave buckets on the ground. You block them. Tree trunk here that looks definitely scratch built. Now, who thinks of this? So sometimes when we get locomotives that just fail in ON30, a lot of people just put them on their shelf, or he turns them into these derelicts. And see the rust here and the all these tarps and boards holding the tarps on, and it's a nice little touch, you know. The first time I ever saw a sluice gate was on Al Judy's layout. And I thought, what an interesting, this is a real close-up of it. But I'd never seen one of these. I vowed that I would put one on my layout if I could figure out a place to put one. This was the very last, why we're picking, that green is not on the, that's something unique to PowerPoint, putting that on there. This was the last scene Al Judy put together before his passing. It was a new rebuilt section. He said that he wanted to redo his entire layout. He talked about just tearing it all apart. And many of us suggested, why don't you do a section at a time? So he worked extremely fast. This was the last modeling he did right here. And these are scratch built and features the Pico track that he was switching to. And you know, when, as I said in the very beginning, he hasn't really left us so long as we maintain his memory. And you know, he impacted a lot of people in the hobby, and he really was the John Allen of ON30, perhaps the new John Allen period of O scale. He was quite an individual. He was the real deal. And this won't be the first. We'll do another one probably in the first of the year of Al, but I hope you enjoyed the modeling of this master model railroader. Yeah.
Tom, I can't thank you enough for putting this together. This was fantastic. This really brings home what a true artist he was. Anybody have any questions for Tom about this? Tom, thanks so much again. Look forward to hearing more about Al down the road.
Thank you for having me.
Well done, Tom.
Well, now we go to Steve Sherrill. What do you want to talk about, Steve?
I like to ride from across town over here, back to my house. No,
Well,
that's always a little thrilling. One thing I'll add to Tom Farrell's presentation on Al, I am very fortunate that I have some of Al's work on my railroad. I had some early models of ON30 that I traded for some of Al's work. He and I would trade things like that early on. And so I get to see his work every single day on my railroad. It certainly did add a new dimension to it. You know, and I when it came time for me to change the look of my railroad, I had 81 cars that I wanted to sell. And who did I call? Al Judy. He's the man. And so we worked out a deal, and I got, you know, sold him the 81 cars. And he turned around and sold them to other modelers who have some of my work on their layouts, I'm sure. And it was just a satisfying experience. So, you know, you meet modelers like this during your lifetime in modeling, and Al was certainly one that I will never forget. I also got an award. He presented it to me, and I treasured the fact that it's something he held and gave to me, knowing that it was one of the last things that he probably did in model railroading was to present me with that award. So, you know, it's a special place in my heart. So now for tonight, I want to talk a little bit about commercial or hand-laid track. Now, I'm going to need some help on this one, guys, because I don't hand-lay track. But I want to show some of the commercial track that I have been dealing with in my own experience. ON30, and which, let me change this around. Can you put me on full screen so I can see what I'm looking at? I think. Anyway.
You're on full screen.
I am?
Yeah, just bring your camera down a little bit so we can see the track.
Oh,
There,
okay,
gotcha.
gotcha.
Right there.
Okay. Here's Pico that Tom was talking about. It's Pico ON30 track. So that's what I use. You can use HO. This is what it looks like, and it's extremely flexible. It's very good, and when you paint it, the code 100, it doesn't really stand out as being real high rail. But now I'm into 08 and 18, which we can now use in-scale track. So here's a commercial in-scale track. I believe this is Atlas, and it comes in 30 inches. But Pico also makes a track that is used in ON18 that looks like this, and you'll see the familiarity. It almost looks exactly like the 30-inch. In fact, if you were to put them side by side, you can see they probably use the same dies, I guess. It certainly looks like it. Extremely flexible, and I'll be using this on my new ON18 railroad that I'm going to be building shortly. So now what I do is I take the track, the first thing I do is paint it all black. I don't have to worry about, that electric conductivity, any of that stuff, because I'm all battery powered, which is a real advantage. So I can now make the track scenery just like you would a mountain or anything else. We can detail it out. It doesn't matter. We can put weeds in the middle of the track, and we can just do anything we want with it because we don't have to worry about the electricity. So that's one thing that I really like about the battery power and using a commercial track. The track is about the same price, believe it or not. The ON18 runs about $9 a section, and so does the ON30. Both are hard to come by because they're made in England. And if we had a friend in England who would send us some, we could really be rolling and having a good time with this. Now, if somebody would please tell me about hand laying track. I tried it and I decided that it was not for me. So I think, Pat, you hand lay track, don't you? Pat? Pat, do you hand lay?
Yes, I do, and I find it gives you more of a chance to gauge your track to fit areas that you wouldn't normally do with a flex track, and it looks more realistic as far as I'm considered. And I don't know, I just found it very easy. I have certain tricks that I use when I build it.
Well, what are some of those tricks, Pat? Do you put do you nail every tie?
Yes, I was just going to tell you how I do that.
Okay.
I bought myself a little pin nailer, type you use for fancy molding, small moldings, and it has about a I'd say about a 3/8 inch pin in it. And when I lay my ties down, I have one side of it guided by a line that I draw on the area that I'm putting it on. I use it on Homosode especially. And I go along and I lay a bead of glue all the way down each side onto the tie before I put it down. And I use a tie to separate the two as I go along. And I use this pin nailer and I punch 2 little pin nails in and it stays there. And I don't have to worry about it moving. But I also do a curve. I have a jig that I make the curves with a little bit. I don't know. You just get used to it after a while and you can lay track pretty quick. And I like the long lengths of rail. I weather my rail before I put it down.
Yeah, you don't split the ends of the tie so it slides under, do you? I mean, I've heard people doing that, so it actually looks like a continuous piece of rail.
Do I which did you say? I'm sorry.
Split the rail horizontally. What
do you mean, like keep it all one length or the different?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I I put it down, I may stagger it, it doesn't matter. Only where I'm going into a turnout. That's where I lay insulated joiners just before I go into the turnout. And it keeps it from
Now,
shorting out.
do you have trouble purchasing rail? I know your layout
Purchasing?
is almost finished now, but did you
I-
have trouble purchasing the rail?
I got most of it from microengineering at the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they must be still producing it, I'm sure. I don't know.
They still are producing it, and they
Yeah.
have a huge supply of it. I spoke to the two new owners. They've got plenty of that rail.
Good, good.
All
Yeah,
different.
that's where I got it. And of course, I would lay it all out on a piece of cardboard, big, large piece of cardboard, and I would take a spray bomb, the rustic color reddish oxide, and I just spray the heck out of it. And then
One
I
thing
would
that
turn
I've
it over and do the other side.
One thing that I've noticed on some railroads with hand laid track is the track seems to drift away from the, and you'll have one side of the tie will be longer than the other side. Have you ever,
That's
what-
why I usually draw a line down before I put the ties in, so I'll know where to put the tie. But once you put those pin nails through, it ain't going anywhere. It won't
No.
drift on you.
Okay.
The pin nailer is very quick. I used to lay a stretch of 10 or 12 feet of track in about 5 or 10 minutes.
Right.
No.
Steve, this is Phil. I think what you're saying is really simple is if you don't use a gauge when you lay one side down, if
Yeah.
you lay down either home bed or something, or you've drawn a line down that you want to be the center line of the track,
Mhm.
when you do hand lay it, both when you do your ties, because a lot of times what you do is you put your ties in a jig, you have a jig with cuts for the ties. And so you put them in and a jig will hold about 18 inches or 24 inches of ties. And what you do is you put your ties in there and then you put a piece of tape on them and you can pull them out and then you can just put your glue down where that line is and then lay the ties down. If you see the line through it, then you just center them on the line and now they're glued down.
Yeah, that's
And so
one way to do it.
normally that's how a lot of folks, that's how we've done it at our club. But then the next step is you've got to have some sort of an alignment tool that's got a center line. So when you lay that first piece of track, you can make sure you're off the center line. If you just kind of eyeball it, you're going to be wiggling and woggling all over the place. So, I mean, one of the nice things about, the flex track, and I use the micro engineering, and I'm going to share a picture here because I think you guys will find this. So, this is micro engineering and then has fast tracks. And so, and it's just spray painted. What you do after you get it all down, spray paint it. And I use that, what is it? The camouflage dark earth or something, dark brown. And that, I find that's a little bit, and then what you do is spray some of the ties with an airbrush. So you kind of lighten them and change them. So some of the ties are different colors, but it gives I think a really nice appearance. You see over there at the left, by the way, that's the joiner to a next module. So, and I do that because it's, for me, it's trying to hand lay on a module wouldn't work. Hand laying on something that's never going to move is something you do. Hand laying on a module I think, is a lot more challenging because everything moves so much. Because if it gets touched or anything, even the micro engineering, it's actually pretty solid once you get it down.
What'd you hold the ties down with there, Bill?
Which ties? The
ones you laid.
To the individual ties?
Yep.
So I just use latex caulk.
Yeah, that will hold it, but it does take a few minutes for it to dry.
Yeah, but I just put some weight on it and it just sits there and dries.
Mine was done in minutes with a pin nailer.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, no, actually the ties I generally use a glue, like something
like an ACC?
Yeah, the AC. I've got an ACC. Put that down below because the reason for using the latex when you put the rails down, the actual flex track down, and I do that for the fast tracks, is it is water soluble. So if you have to, you can get it up And I did have one turnout that I had problems with. It was not the craftsmanship level that was required for smooth operations. I'm building a bunch of turnouts now using the fast tracks jigs. I'm actually getting it down. We were talking about that to where I've got it to where it's reasonably quick. It still takes a while. There's a lot of steps involved and to get it exactly right. Once you do it, they work really very well.
Do you have trouble flexing the microengineering on curves? I've heard that was been a problem.
You just have to work it. You have to just kind of work it from the middle a little bit, and then you got to work it on the edges. You can't just take it and grab it and go like this.
Yeah.
You kind of got to slide. And the other thing you can do with microengineering is turn it over and cut out 20% or 30% of the connectors.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing you do if you want it to, other thing I've done is if you want it to look more rural, backwoods, just cut some of the ties out. Just cut the connectors between them, pop the ties out, and then you can spread them out. And you now, instead of the ties being, this far apart, you can make the ties this far apart, and you can twist them a little bit. If they're not connected together, they can twist, and they don't really seem to affect the gauge whatsoever. But you can make it look much more backwoodsy if you want to, without having to hand lay it.
Now, are you using code 70 or are you staying with 100?
It's all code 83.
Code 83, okay.
Yeah, and our standard is code 100 at the interface, and I bought one of those. They sell them on, I think it's on eBay. It's a little fixture that you put the code 83 and the code 100 rail in with a rail joiner, and it squeezes them together and holds them real tightly on the top plate, and then you solder them together, and you get a real nice running, just a little bit of filing on the inside edge, and you got a smooth transition, much smoother than you get using, kind of the transition parts you buy, and it looks a lot better too.
In your module group, is that code 83 the whole?
No, it's code 100 at the interfaces.
Yeah.
But I like the way code 83 looks, so I do that on my modules, and it doesn't seem to be a problem for any of the Bachmann locomotives. They all seem to run on cars and locomotives on code 83. Haven't had any issues.
Yeah, I use 100, and you really can't tell the difference, I don't think,
Yeah, you can't. Probably can't.
I dry brush all my track is dry brushed. I dry spray paint it. I dry brush everything on.
So it's exactly, you dry brush, or you can use the airbrush, and then I've tried to paint the rails too, give them a little rust coat.
Yeah.
I think that when you look at it, they it gives them that nice. Here, let me.
I don't. Tom, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
You showed me some of your track work today that was finished and ballasted.
Yes.
Could you show some of that, because you had a nice job on that. You did great work.
Give me a minute to get a photo. Yeah, but I can do it. It'll come back to me. Yep.
Is there any? Are there any O scale standard besides Pat?
Yeah, Steve.
Yes.
Steve. So 28 years ago, I built 48 feet of modules and hand laid O scale track with hand laid switches. I made my own switches, points, everything. And to this date, the Detroit Union Railroad, also known as the Holly Club, they are still using those modules to this day. And the ties were laid down with Elmer's white glue. The track was laid. I mean, you got to take time. When you're doing that long of a run, you want nice straight track. It takes a little care and effort, but it is possible. And I really enjoyed the hand laying. It was wonderful. I mean, building those frogs myself, and the variety of frogs that are out there, you can do all sorts of different things with them. And I loved it. The only thing is, I've had medical issues and the nerves in my hands are gone. So I am going down the route of buying Flex Track, and I'm going to attempt making my own switches for those. But we'll see what happens. But I have been planning and stockpiling microengineering. I do have a Fast Tracks number 5 jig for the switches, but I also have a couple that I've picked up at different events and just in case. But situations have changed. But I tell you what, I got so much enjoyment out of hand laying the track, doing the curves, and doing the switches, and building the frogs and filing down the points, and it was just awesome. I really enjoyed that because I really enjoy track work. I actually enjoy track and track work more than I enjoy. That's what I enjoy about rail fanning, is looking at those spots, and I used to have people say, "Oh, you can't have an S curve. That's not prototypical." Well, crap, there's S curves all over out there in the real world.
Did you didn't put tie plates down too, did you?
I did not go to that extreme because, like I was doing 48 feet, but I did a 5 track yard. I did all sorts of stuff, and I want to get running trains. And the big thing was I did do some sections with tie plates using Grant line, and that's a lot of tie plates. But I was every tie with a tie plate, I was only spiking diagonally on each tie plate. I wasn't using all 4, but it was pretty close to it. But and that's where talking and listening to the Proto 48 gentleman a week or 2 ago, it seems like Proto 48's more about the track work nowadays than it was before. Before it was like rivet counters and the track work.
Yeah. Did anybody use any ribbon rail guides for radius? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do have them, but I wasn't doing anything so tight that was a problem. I have them, the complete set for the ON30 or HO gauge, but when it comes to running porters and stuff, screw it. If a porter will go through it, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I used to use like the 36,
Yep.
then lead in 24, and it gave a real nice easement. But I used to have 2 or 3 of each radius, so I could put them down one after another. It kept it in place, and then I could put the weights right down on top of them. I moved along pretty quick with that. Unfortunately, I learned with somebody, and I don't know where they are now. But
there you go.
This is fascinating. We need to continue, but I'm afraid that we need to maybe cut it right now. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, we'll come back to it again.
I really do appreciate it, and thank you so much for it, Steve.
Okay.
I don't want to cut you short, but I've got an announcement that I want to make here, and we're getting close to 2 hours on the show. Guess it won't take very long, but I do want to read this to you. And then we'll do a caboose, and that'll be it for the evening.
Okay.
It's really hard for me to believe, but it's been 8 years since I first wrote the first article for New Tracks Modeling for both of Dan Daugherty's magazines. My wife Nancy came up with the title because I wanted to have something that we could have recognized and become a brand. And New Tracks was the thing that we settled on. About a couple of years later, in addition to the articles, I started hosting a weekly Zoom show. We haven't missed a week. Some weeks, some months, we were doing, instead of 4, we did 8 because we were doing 2 a week. Some we did on Saturdays. Some we just did on Wednesday and Saturday, and did them for quite a while like that. This is the third year now of our New Tracks Modeling Scholarship Program. Can't tell you how proud I am of it. We're the only volunteer organization to offer national scholarships to modelers who are model railroaders. Last year, we offered $2,000 to 3 students, really first-class young guys. I think they're going to be the future of our hobby. That's what we're doing the scholarship program for, is trying to encourage people and help them financially in their education as they start their careers and hopefully continue in our hobby, much the same as all of us did. About a year ago, we started publishing the observation newsletter, thanks to Breckbiel MMR, who immediately agreed to be our editor. Martin's, I think, edited every magazine out there. And we were so fortunate that he volunteered to be the editor for our publication. This has been an amazing journey for me. And none of it would have been possible without the dedication and contribution of so many talented volunteers along the way, who generously gave not only their time, energy, ideas, but also their financial support to keep the shows funded and to keep them in operation. I'm not even going to try to name everybody, but 2 people stand out in my mind that I'll never forget. Dylan Lambert. Dylan had the technical knowledge to get us on Zoom. Back when we started in the pandemic areas, we didn't have to buy Zoom. The company just wanted people to experiment with it. And if you were willing to try to learn how to get on and off of Zoom, they let you stay on as long as you wanted to for free. It was kind of the Wild West back then. We had one bad situation where we were hacked, and Dylan dealt with it, but it was rather strange back then to see what was happening with the Zoom phenomenon. The other is Chris Course. Chris joined us, and we started the My Bill segments, and look what it's grown into. It's one of the most popular segments that we do. Never forget our first discussions about it, what he was doing, what his views of it were, what his ideas were. Can't thank him enough for everything that he's contributed to making it what it is today. A simple thank you, that's so inadequate. It doesn't really express the heartfelt appreciation I have for each person who has worked so hard to make New Tracks anywhere close to what it is today. As many of you know, I don't want New Tracks modeling programs to ever come to an end just because I'm not able anymore to do them. Well, I'm 85 years old now, and I need to start preparing for the time when I can't do them. Some would say it's already that time. In my view, New Tracks modeling has never been about me personally. I truly believe that our programs bring great value to the hobby of model railroading. I think they should continue as long as we possibly can get them to continue. That's why, effective January the 1st, 2025, Tom Farrell will take the lead in our Zoom programs as the host. He'll be responsible for putting them together and hosting them and answering all the questions and worrying about whether people are going to do what they say they're going to do or not, and running the shows. Bob Davidson's going to take the lead in our scholarship program. He already is anyway. What a contribution Bob has made to the scholarship program. Phil at home, what can I say? Phil handles all the technical work. He understands the production side of Zoom, of YouTube, of all of the digital stuff that we're trying to do. So he'll take the lead in that and be responsible for all of the production and the team that he puts together to keep New Tracks going. Martin Breckbiel, MMR. He'll continue our newsletter. He'll become the editor, executive editor, and he's responsible for that newsletter. Jim Allen. Jim came and helped start our website. He's our webmaster. We owe him a lot. We put in a lot of time and effort getting that website to where it is today. In my opinion, we couldn't ask for a better group of future leaders for New Tracks Modeling. I'm going to continue writing articles. I'm going to continue to stay involved, but just at a much less of an involvement than I've had in the past. I believe that model building, mentoring, various youth programs like our scholarship are essential to the long-term growth and future of our great model railroad hobby. I'm convinced of it. Thanks for everything each one of you have done and will do more in the future for New Tracks Modeling. It's been a real pleasure and a real journey. More to come. Now, if we could run the caboose.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Most importantly, hope you learned something. After all, that's what it's all about. Till next Wednesday, happy modeling. Great job, Pat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great job.